This is the Level Up Podcast. I'm Taylor Petrinovich.
And I'm Kelly Gilster of 618 Studios.
And we are on a mission to help wedding filmmakers and photographers level up their businesses so you can make more and work less.
We want to help you confidently take your business from mainstream to luxury, and it all starts right here.
Taylor Swift said it herself. I know I'm not the best singer or dancer, but I'm a good writer and I can connect with people. So why is she dominating the music industry, and what can luxury creatives learn from that? You do not have to be the most technically perfect filmmaker or photographer to charge luxury prices. And we're excited to talk about Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour, her epic success, and what we can learn from that as wedding photographers and filmmakers who are all striving for the luxury space. Welcome to the Level Up Podcast. I'm Taylor Petrinovich, joined as always by my co-host, Kelly Gilster. Hey, Kelly.
Hey, Taylor, thank you so much for that amazing intro, and buckle up, Swifties, because we have a really great episode ahead. And even if you're not a Swiftie, listen in, because obviously Taylor Swift has done it right in becoming just a billionaire just off of her music alone, no other brand deals outside, but also just an incredible influencer within our age. And so we want all of you to enter your new era this year in 2025. And this episode is really going to help you be able to do just that. But first things first, I want to announce that the doors to our luxury mastermind are open. It is such an exciting week to be able to welcome in filmmakers and photographers who are highly ambitious and ready for the next level. They've decided that they have put in their time in a market that no longer serves them, and they're ready for more. They want to make more and work less, and our mastermind has helped hundreds of filmmakers and photographers do just that. So be sure to hop in and grab your seat inside of our 12-week live coaching experience. Taylor, let's take it away on this one.
Okay, you guys, you don't have to like Taylor Swift to learn from her. And as Kelly said, she is one for the ages in our kind of realm of the millennial and the Gen Z coming up. And there's a reason why she has amassed over $1 billion with a single tour alone. And we have a lot to learn from her. She's not only, in my opinion, a talented artist, but she's also a super savvy businesswoman. And make no mistake, everything that she does is highly intentional. And I think that's kind of the first thing that we can learn from her, is to not allow things happen to us within our business. Like, we can really enter that driver's seat. So I have a few notes here, so I'm going to be glancing down. If you're watching on YouTube, we would love for you to hit the subscribe button and the thumbs up. That helps the podcast reach more people. But I have some notes, so bear with me as I glance down. But she's not just performing when she is on stage at the Eras Tour and at future tours, if you're listening to this, not in 2025, but she is truly building a brand, an emotional experience, and a culture around her work. And that's what elevates her above the noise. There are literally thousands of other artists competing for that top spot, but she has risen to the top, and we have so much that we can take away as wedding filmmakers and photographers who are trying to elevate our businesses to the luxury market. So the very first one is recognizing that Taylor Swift is not the best vocalist. She is not the best singer out there. It's not about being the best. It's about being the most resonant. So people don't remember the most technically perfect photographer or filmmaker. They really remember how you made them feel.
Yeah, it's so true. And when I was talking to Taylor about doing this episode, I said, what is it about Taylor Swift? There's tons of other much more talented vocalists out there in the world. People that are doing the Nashville thing. There's even so many talented vocalists that sing, weekend after weekend in bands of the weddings that we sing. And so what is it about Taylor Swift that just really set her apart from the rest? And I just think that that's so true. If you're sitting here as a filmmaker or photographer and you're like, okay, I'm in it with a sea of other talented people. Now, how do I break free and kind of put my foot on the accelerator to put myself at a league above everybody else? Taylor, what's the number one thing that Taylor Swift did in order to do that?
Okay, so she knows how to connect with people. So 90% of luxury clients say that emotional connection is actually the top reason why they choose a vendor. It's not just about how technically perfect their work is. So if we're referring to this as Taylor Swift, Taylor knows her strengths are in storytelling, in connection, and emotional intelligence. And she leans into those things really, really heavily. She highlights her strengths and allows her weaknesses to just fall behind her because her strengths put her ahead of the competition. So for luxury clients out there, they're not looking for the most perfectly framed image. They're not looking for the most technically perfect film out there. A lot of the times, it's the way they feel when looking at those things or consuming those pieces of imagery. And so for so many of us, that can mean like knowing what to keep our eye out for, having the emotional intelligence to really like read the room and know what moments are going to be the ones that that bride is going to want to remember. Like, sure, that perfect little, bouquet sitting on the chair in the corner of the room is artistically beautiful, but does it make you feel something? And I feel like that's a trend that we're seeing, especially sitting here in 2025, within the wedding industry, really taking shape is leaning into those truly, truly emotional moments. It's the grandma wiping her tear away, sitting, in the edge of the room as her beautiful granddaughter is getting her gown on. It's not that perfectly stylized image.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that what you said earlier, where you said that she understands where her strengths lie and where her weaknesses lie, and she just kind of lets the weaknesses fall behind her. She doesn't heavily reflect on it or feel like, okay, this part of what I have is feeling weaker. I need to just hyper focus on making that weaker point of my business up to the same caliber as where my strengths are, that would really just kind of keep her stagnant in her business, honestly. And I think that so many filmmakers and photographers do that. They have weaknesses and they have strengths. And if we just really pour all of our energy and efforts into making sure that those strengths are seen, that we are continuing to work and improve those strengths and the weaknesses, rather than vice versa, right? Because when we're just focusing on those weaknesses, it's going to hold us back. And so we want you guys to understand that in the luxury market, all of us have weaknesses. There's people that, that are at the tippity top that have both strengths and weaknesses, and they have fully leaned into those strengths, and like I said, made sure that those strengths are magnified, to their ideal clients, and they don't focus on the weaknesses.
I like what you just said. They magnify their strengths because it's so true. Like, we all have weaknesses. And I think what can happen for a lot of people is we hyperfixate on the things that maybe we recognize are not as strong as other people in that same area. And that gets us into a little bit of a pickle. I feel like it allows us to feel a little bit less than. It makes us feel not worth our big goals. It creates a lot of imposter syndrome, and recognizing that everyone has their own weaknesses that they're just putting behind a wall so that they're not public facing is definitely something that is good to be aware of, because Instagram and being online is truly a highlight reel, and people are really only seeing what they put out there. And honestly, it's so true. Like, really, like you said, magnifying those strengths. But I also think it's worth noting that behind the scenes, in a very like power play move, she's been working on maybe her weaknesses. So if you go back and listen to her like original albums from her early days, her vocals are drastically improved in her newer renditions of her albums, in like the Taylor's version of like those old albums. And so you can tell that she's been working really, really, really hard behind the scenes in a private setting to get those skills at least like kind of like up to snuff. So they weren't holding her back. So I feel like that's something that we can take a page out of her book as well, is magnify the strengths in a public setting, but then behind the scenes work on the things that may be lacking. Go take a course, go do a workshop, go learn those skills and quietly focus on improving them, but from a place of abundance and understanding that everything is a skill. Truly, no one is born knowing how to do everything, and no one is born being good at everything. Skills are honed over time. And just taking that stance of that you have all the room in the world to improve, and you're in the power position and you can take control of that. I feel like it's a really great reminder. And okay, this is number 2. So this is very, very applicable specifically to our students, because this is something that we guide most of them, the vast majority of them, through throughout our time together inside the luxury mastermind, and is that every era in the Eras Tour is a reinvention, and every era is strategic. So people love growth stories. People love to see how we are transitioning and moving up through life, through phases of business, what have you. And Taylor Swift has really mastered the art of evolving in public. And a really great example, obviously, is the Eras Tour, which is the culmination of all of her different eras. But Taylor really reinvented her brand with every single album that she has come out with. So Fearless, Reputation, Folklore, Midnights, they all have a very different vibe and a different feeling and a different brand around them as she evolved as an artist over time. And I think that's a really wonderful reminder in that the brand that we created on day one of our businesses when we did not know what the heck we were doing does not have to be the same brand that we live with in year 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And embracing the fact that growing and evolving as a business owner and as a brand is actually a really smart move.
Yeah, you don't have to be forever kind of pinned as the affordable option in your local market. You can absolutely change the narrative and the course trajectory of your business by simply entering a new era and creating a brand new brand identity around that, having a new social media strategy, understanding what those high-end clients are looking for and the experience that is so different than the budget client experience that we walk all of our students through inside of our 12-week coaching experience, the Luxury Mastermind. We have truly seen incredible pivots from week 1 to week 12 from our students, and it's something that can be achievable for you too. This isn't just like, oh, good for them. They were able to figure it out. No, you can do it too. I just think that it's so important for you to realize that you can change the narrative. You can sit in the driver's seat and steer your business in the direction that you want it to go in. It's more than just kind of sitting there and saying, okay, well, like I said, good for them, but that's not my reality. It can absolutely be your reality too. And we have seen it time and time again over the previous 4 masterminds that we have hosted.
Yeah, absolutely. And embracing the fact that we are all ever evolving. So many of our students have actually kind of brought this question to us. And so we would like to answer it in a public forum. They've said, well, I just redid my brand, or I just redid my website, or I just redid XYZ within their business or their brand 6 months ago, a year ago, 18 months ago. Like, is it going to be a poor reflection upon my brand to be changing things again? And the resounding answer is no, it's absolutely not a poor reflection on your brand. It's not a bad look. People want to see you evolving. And if you're not evolving in the direction where you want to go, you always have the ability and the power to change that. So I remember in my business. So 2020 was a very pivotal year for me and for many, many others within the industry. When the world shut down, I put my head down and I learned all the ins and outs of the luxury market, branding, all like building relationships, all those things. And so many of what I've learned there, we've infused into the luxury mastermind along with what Kelly's learned over the last 1,000 years in the industry. And
1,000 years.
1,000 years. And so kind of like my evolution was in 2020 I had like a different business name. I rebranded to Taylor Petrinovich in maybe June, and I probably within a 1 year period had 4 different versions of a website. 4 different versions, and I realized I also didn't love my logo about 6 months in, so I like took part of it off. And so literally over the course of 12 months, well, okay, let's say even the course of 18 months, I had 5 different iterations of my brand, but each iteration of my brand moved me closer and closer and closer to my ideal client. I wasn't worried about, oh, I feel like I need to stay like this for a certain amount of time, like as if there was a rule that I had to follow made up by nobody but myself. Instead, I embraced the forward momentum, and I wasn't afraid to reinvent myself really, really quickly as I learned what was working, what wasn't working, as I learned more about my ideal client, as I honed my skills. And I truly, truly think that that's what allowed me within just, a 24-month period to take my prices from that $4,500 price point to that $12,000 price point. I think embracing different eras, different versions of my brand and my identity within the industry is really what helped me grow quickly. We see people who are holding on to that rebrand that they spent $6,000 on 5 years ago because they just spent so much money on it and they just can't let go, or they just loved whatever it was. But you guys, like, if you've been sitting on that brand for an extended period of time and you haven't seen the growth that you've wanted, there's a really big chance that, like, you need to change something.
It's time
It's
to
holding you back.
Yeah, it's time to move into the next era, honestly.
Yes, it's time to move into the next era. So that goes with everything. That goes with how we're showing up on a wedding day, your website, your brand, like visual identity, period. The way you approach editing, honestly, can be a big part of it. Your Instagram, all of these things, just how you're showing up, can be reinvented through different eras of business. And if you're a super, super growth minded person and you have your eyes set on high goals and you're like, I'm going to make it happen quick, you're going to be reinventing yourself and entering new eras a lot more frequently than somebody who's maybe a little bit more relaxed when they are approaching growth in their business. So realize that just because not everyone, or maybe the person in the lane next to you, is not doing things at the same speed or on the same timeline as you, that doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. Run your own race, and we all have our own individual goals and what we want for our businesses.
Run your own race. I love that.
Okay, so just like the TLDR version of that point before we move on to the next. To reach the next level, you may have to leave behind the version of your brand that got you here. Embrace that next era. And if you need a guide to help you, we would love to invite you inside the Luxury Mastermind. Okay, number 3 is focusing on the experience. So, Taylor Swift has redefined the concert going experience. It is no longer a singer songwriter on stage with her guitar singing at an audience for 2 hours. She completely changed the game, and turned the Eras Tour into a fully immersive experience. Where it's no longer a concert, it's an epic event. So she brought like the visuals, the sensory, all of these things really to the next level and didn't just rest on her work alone.
Yes, and she made it feel like she was a part of the community and immersed herself within the community too. So it's not like she's just on this pedestal so far away on that stage, untouchable. She did so many things to bring personalized details to the entire experience for her audience. And that's exactly what you need to do in this next era as well. No more automatic email templates, no more auto this, auto that. It's really redefining the way in which a client experiences you from initial inquiry to final delivery. And it doesn't have to mean like personalized gifts, here, and here, or whatever, but there is a very strategic way in order for high net wealth individuals to feel taken care of, well treated, and in alignment with the experience that they are used to encountering with the luxury brands that they encounter on a daily basis. That's another thing that Taylor and I really, really heavily focus on within our mastermind. It's something that really isn't anywhere else in traditional education. And it really sets apart our mastermind from other programs.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you imagine, if you want to, if you want to Taylor Swiftify your business, showing up to the concert, singing to the audience, and then leaving would be the equivalent of kind of allowing your work to speak for itself. And instead, she takes things to the next level. She approaches things with a concierge level of service, that white glove service, the really connecting with her audience the way we want to connect with our clients. And that doesn't mean getting on a million consultation calls. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about remembering the mother of the bride's name on the wedding day and not calling her mom. And I have a few other like tactical things we can apply because I know this is like an interesting concept, taking a Taylor Swift and putting her as a wedding photographer or a filmmaker. So here are just like kind of a couple bullet points to get your mind going on how we can infuse this into our own businesses. So putting the wedding day experience over the craft itself. So we see a lot of people fall into some pitfalls where they are ultra insistent, aka slightly demanding of sticking with certain things they have predetermined before the wedding day started. So maybe they envision doing 20 minutes of portraits at sunset, but maybe we're looking at Miss Bride and she's looking a little tired and like she wants to hang out with her friends and she's looking slightly annoyed. The non Taylor Swift version of you would be heavily insistent on no, you need to leave your friends and we're going to go take these photos right now. And maybe the Taylor Swiftified version would meet that client where they are with with a little bit of emotional intelligence and realize that their wedding day experience might be slightly more important than the 200 images you can walk away with during a portrait session. And so maybe she's like, Let's just pop right outside. We won't even go anywhere. We're just going to put you in front of this white wall and we're going to just grab a couple portraits because tomorrow, when everything's said and done, you're going to really wish you had just at least a couple in this beautiful light, but we'll get you back to hanging out with your friends really, really quickly. Like something like that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. Really seeing outside of yourself. I just think that so many filmmakers and photographers, they look at it as like, let's say this portrait session was something that they really, really envisioned. Say it's a venue that they dreamed of shooting at. And they're like, okay, this work, this like portfolio is going to change the game for me. And so they're like pulling the couple out and they're like, the couple's like longingly looking back at their party and they're like driving them around in the golf car all around to the spots. And it's just like the couple is just like dying inside because it's not the experience that they wanted. And so, like you said, Taylor, the emotional intelligence of like, okay, I'm going to take the blinders off here. What am I doing right now to serve my client well and not just myself well? Because if you look at the big picture, and I love what Lindsay with Larev says, where it's stepping over dollars to collect pennies, that's a perfect analogy of this, where that bride may not refer you to the five of her best friends now because you just kind of killed that experience for them. And the photos are going to be looked at with a slightly skewed view because they remember I just missed all of that party because I was around taking photos that I would have been happy just stepping outside, taking 7 minutes of my time, and then heading back into my party instead of 37 minutes driving around on a golf cart?
100%. Yeah. And I think like really putting the client's experience at the forefront of your mind in many different areas is really important as well. We talk a lot about the sales process and not like being so stuck in your ways that you're difficult to work with. That means, like you mentioned, like no autoresponder emails, like taking that concierge level approach of like personalizing each and every email with like small personal details, including people's names, references to things that you are aware of on their wedding day to make it feel like it was not a robot that they've been talking to this whole time, and even high level etiquette on the wedding day. So things like not sitting in the corner of the bridal suite chewing gum on your phone while you're waiting, loudly yapping with your second shooter, or like things like that. Like just like approaching the wedding day as like a true luxury service provider. And I love this. So we talked about this in the podcast probably a few months ago by now, but when we were at Kinetic in Santa Barbara, I watched you um, enjoy the way the hotel staff, when we were passing them like in the hallways, they like take the approach where as you're passing, they stop walking, they stand to the side and they like nod and like greet you hello, and then they wait for you to pass by before they continue on their merry way. And I remember you saying that you've taken that approach on the wedding day as well, of like kind of mirroring the way these like luxury property staff members treat their guests, and I think that's just, like, so brilliant because that's the way they're they're used to being treated.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the way we're mirroring all of the high touch etiquette things that our clients are used to experiencing on, a day in, day out basis. And so we talk about all of this high level etiquette that is truly the thing that's going to set you apart. If you're looking for what is really going to just allow you to soar above the rest in your local market or in the destination market. It feels like it is a saturated market, but it's really not. If you implement all of these high level etiquette tactics, you will very soon be recognized for the true professional you are. And with your already beautiful work, it's just going to allow you to see new heights in your business that you've never seen before.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm gonna be honest, like, some of these things that we're talking about seem like no-brainers, and they seem extremely easy to execute, but you would be so shocked at how few people do. So just by doing these things that we're talking about in this episode, and then if you would love to hop into Mastermind, we'd love to have you and all those things, it's going to immediately set you apart, and that's, like, the amazing thing is so many people are not approaching their businesses and the way they're showing up with intention. So by being intentional about every touch point and every facet, you're immediately put into the top 5%, which is something that we are so passionate about helping our students with. Okay, guys, bear with us. This is the very last one. And Kelly kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, but we're going to dig in much deeper because I think this is one of the most powerful takeaways you're going to have from this episode. And that is Taylor Swift. takes complete control over the narrative of her brand. You are not the story that people tell about you. You are the storyteller. You get to dictate what your reputation is, pun fully intended, and you get to dictate the way people perceive you. You are in the driver's seat. You don't have to wait for people to form their own opinions about you because you get to form those opinions based off of how you're showing up in person, how you're showing up online, different touch points along the way, even like down to how you're commenting on other people's posts on Instagram. That's a public form of communication and is a reflection of your brand. And the example I want to take from Taylor Swift, if we're using the Taylor Swiftification of this, is when I don't know if you guys remember, if you're a Swiftie, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But a few years ago, it was this big issue where Scooter Braun bought her record label or the rights to her albums that she had previously recorded, like up to Lover. And she fought really hard and she really wanted to purchase the rights back to these albums, and he would not let her. And so instead of just being bummed about it and just like putting her hands up and saying, okay, I guess that's just how it is, she took control and she has since re recorded most of those albums and has dubbed them as the Taylor's version so that she is in complete control of that narrative now. And I know that's like kind of like a funny thing to think about, but you don't need to wait for permission. You don't need to wait for someone else to tell you you're ready. You don't need to wait for somebody else to, give you your time in the spotlight or to give you that like breakthrough wedding that you've been waiting for. You need positioning. You need to put yourself in the position of power. And a few months ago, we had Austin Trenholm on the podcast, which is a great episode. He talked about creating your own luck. And that's exactly what we're talking about is taking absolute control of every detail, taking control of your destiny, taking control of where you're driving this bus of a brand, and not leaving it up to chance. You have complete control over literally everything in your business. You don't have to allow things to happen to you.
Yes, and I think that one of the biggest sticking points that we see students, or even if you're not a student, someone that we're just chatting with, and they're like, well, I can't pursue the premier or luxury market because there's not luxury around me. And I don't care if you're a filmmaker in the middle of Mississippi. I don't care if you're a filmmaker in the middle of Virginia, in the middle of Washington, Idaho. You can change the narrative and position your brand to be a luxury brand. You can find luxury just maybe a bit outside of your local market or be the premier choice in your local market. So, don't let where you live or the area that you serve be the deterrent or the determining factor for you not reaching your dreams. Just like a little tough love because it can be done and you can do it.
Or, I mean, you can take my story for another example. So let's say I did want to stay into that in that Sacramento market and the cap is right around that $7,000 to $8,000 mark. Well, there's still a lot of room to grow from $3,000 to $8,000. And if it was my goal to just kind of sit at the top of my local market and be the go-to for the highest budgets in my area, that would have been a really amazing power play too. And it would have served me creatively really well, would have served my family really well when it comes to the financial side of what I was bringing in. Like that's still doubling how much I was charging. So I think both goals and both paths of business are equally, amazing for people to pursue because we all have different lives, different values, different things that we want to be getting. And it's so true. Although not everybody wants to get to the luxury market, there is more you can be doing within your business. You can rise to the top of your own local market, and all of the same principles and tactical actions are going to be very, very similar for both paths. And those are both things that we teach inside of the Luxury Mastermind. I would say, probably about 2/3 of our students really have their eyes set on truly scaling to the luxury market, soaring past that $10,000 per wedding price point. And the remaining third of them are really, really aiming to be the premier choice in their own local market, which would be that staying in Sacramento and charging $7,000 to $8,000, which again is another amazing goal to have. And I think that either way, it's worth pursuing in 2025. It's worth going after because the time is passing anyway. So what are we doing with that time? People who take action are going to see the fruits of their labor even faster. And if you are sitting there 5 years from now, you may be wishing you would have started today because growth takes a little bit to build momentum. So the quicker you can start building momentum, the more you'll see all that money coming in. The more you'll see those beautiful clients booking you with their outstandingly gorgeous weddings with beautiful design. The faster you'll see the ability to take on fewer weddings, to have more weekends back, reclaimed for your own personal life and enjoyment. And there's just so many. There's honestly like an endless number of reasons to pursue this. So we talked about a lot. We all are entering that new era of our businesses. And so, just really quickly, going to recap these bullet points. So, you don't have to be the most talented, you just need to be the most intentional and the most aligned. Reinvent when it's time to grow. Embrace reinvention. Embrace every new era of your business. Obsess over your client experience because that's really going to be the determining factor in how they feel about you. Build a brand that creates resonance with the right people. Make sure you're attracting your ideal clients and not putting out content that is trying to attract other photographers, filmmakers. Don't confuse the narrative, and control the way your brand is perceived, and don't leave it up to chance. Don't let other people determine how your business looks at the end of the day. You are fully in the driver's seat, and embrace that power position. We did not set out to become entrepreneurs for other people to tell us what to do. We set out to have control over our own lives, our own businesses, our schedules, and our income. And it's time to take that full control back.
Absolutely. Taylor and I are big goal girlies over here at the Level Up Co. We highly believe that every single person listening here has goals of their own, and we want to help you reach those goals. So we hope that you are ready to enter a new era of your business here in 2025. We hope that that happens within our mastermind. Again, the doors are officially open. You can head over to thelevelupco.com/mastermind for more details. Please DM Taylor and I too, or voice memo us on Instagram and ask any questions that you have. We are more than happy to provide guidance on if this is the next move for your business. So we hope that you guys have a great week ahead, and we will see you next week.
Thank you for joining us in today's conversation. Please help us reach more filmmakers and photographers like you by taking a screenshot and sharing it to social media. And don't forget to tag us at The Level Up Co.
And join us again next week, same time, same place, as we continue to level up the industry together.